Hello, everyone, and welcome to CSSI Technologies Management Reporter webinar for beginners. Today, I have Rochelle Mosteller joining me from our GP team of experts. So she will be guiding you through some basic information about Management Reporter. So first, she'll introduce herself, then we'll move into a basic Management Reporter overview. We'll discuss report structure, get into some details there and show you how you can make some changes and modifications to your reports. Then we'll go into running those reports, and then we'll move through our Q&A session. We will be having our question and answer session at the end, so please feel free to use the chat feature to send us questions throughout the presentation, and then we'll address those during the Q&A section at the end of the presentation. We will be sending out the recording of this webinar to everyone who has attended, so we thank you again, and I think we're safe to get this show rolling.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Abby. Like Abby said, my name is Rochelle Mosteller. I have had 17 years as an accountant at International Paper. I was the cost accountant and then the accounting supervisor. I have spent 10 years as a controller using Microsoft Dynamics Great Plains, and I have been with CSSI as a customer care specialist for about 7 years. So I'm going to spend the next half hour sharing information about Management Reporter and things that I wish I would have known in the beginning when I was starting to use Management Reporter. All questions are welcome. Submit them, and we will go over them after the presentation. There's no way to fail. We're all here to share information. Be gentle with yourself. We're here to learn. It's a beginner's class, and we're going to be here to cover all the basics. All questions are welcome. So first, Management Reporter, what is it? Management Reporter is a financial reporting tool that can be used to create financial statements. It can be used with Great Plains and other accounting systems. The intent of Management Reporter is to create a tool that can be used by controllers and accountants to create their own reports and without necessarily needing the help from programmers or an IT department. Management Reporter's ease of use is one of the reasons that it is a popular reporting tool. So now we're going to come out and we're actually going to see Management Reporter. So this is basically the home screen of Management Reporter. Reports are comprised of 4 parts. There is a report definition, which is basically the container, and it holds all about your reports. There is a row definition. The rows will define the accounts that you're going to use. There are column definitions, and that generally defines the periods that you are going to be looking at. And then there are reporting trees. And trees can help you break it down by department or by facility. So we're going to start first with the report definition. The report definition is comprised of, if you see, there's 4 tabs across the top here. And on the main report tab, so you can create a report and run it against multiple companies. So the first field here is to choose what company you're going to run the report against. The next is the detail level, and this will give you the ability to drill down into your report. So the highest level that you can have is financial, and you can go all the way down to financial, account, and transaction, which will actually allow you to drill all the way back into Great Plains and see the actual transaction that was created. And I just noticed that I don't have Great Plains open, so I'm going to have to open Great Plains so that we can drill back into, see those transactions. So if you give me a moment while I do that, and then we'll go ahead and just minimize Great Plains while we go on to talk about Management Reporter. And I have two more windows here that I have to wait for them to open before I can close them. Everything is checking. So you know what, we can come back over here. So with the level of detail, the further detail you go into, it is possible that it can take your report a little longer to generate. So that would be one reason why maybe you would not want to choose that, depending on, you know, what exactly you're looking for at the end of your report. And you have the ability here that you can choose whether you want to use unposted or you want to include unposted transactions. Generally speaking, everybody only wants to look at transactions that are already posted to the general ledger. You have the ability here in Management Reporter to report against multiple currencies. I'm not sure that if any of our customers are using multiple currencies, but Management Reporter does give you the ability to do that. The reports for Management Reporter are based in a relational way. So this base period, for people who are on a calendar year, the periods will go along with the calendar months. So if you set yourself up that you're going to have 12 periods in Great Plains, then 1 through 12 will represent each month. However, if you are on a fiscal year and you start, say October 1st is the beginning of your fiscal year, then your base period 1 will represent October. And then I'll show you in the column formats how the base year is used, that you can report against the current year and prior years. And it all comes off of this base year setting. The row formats, here's where you select the row that you're going to use. So you just click on the drop down and then you can choose different formats that you would have, and the same for columns. You can choose, so say maybe you have a current month and then you have another format that compares the current month and a year to date. And instead of creating a whole new report, you can just select the new column format and go from there. And then for the tree type, this report currently doesn't have one set up, but then you can come in and select a tree and then run the report against a tree. The next tab in the report definition is for the output and distribution. And on this output and distribution tab is basically the details of what you want the report to look like when it comes out. Where do you want the report to generate? Do you want the report to open up automatically when you see it? You can have one here that you want to include your headers and footers. You can have your reports or your duplicate accounts reported. And also, if you are planning on exporting your report to Excel, it's on this tab where you set the options of how you would like the report exported to Excel. The next column or tab across the top is your headers and footers. and how you would like those to be defined. And on this first section here, you can choose if you would like to have your logo. I'm going to skip over here to images. And I have a logo available here, and you can define the logo and add it, and then the logo will be added to all of your reports. There's also this auto text feature where you can, there are many, many options to choose from. So you can have the company name that will come from your company setup. You can have units automatically defined. As you see, there's numerous selections. And then you can have different date and time stamps put on it, the periods covered, the day you run the report. You can have your page numbers, page 1 of however many. You can have the unit from your reporting tree. So if you're using a reporting tree and your unit would represent different departments, you can have the unit text show, and then the particular department would display. And you can insert these auto text features. You have the header and the footer, and then you can put them if you'd like them to be centered or on the bottom, and whichever section you would like those to appear in. Next, we're going to go to the Settings tab, and on the Settings tab, you can choose what level of rounding. So sometimes if you're a large corporation and you just want to see your P&L by the thousands, here we can go all the way up to billions. Or you can, if your balance sheet, typically you do not want to round a balance sheet. So you can go all the way from no rounding to up to rounding in the billions. You can select the order of priority of how you want to calculate, if you want to do rows first or columns first. And again, you can have your values. You can change the order here by just moving up or moving down in the order that is here. Some of the other items that can be selected that are most often used is, do you want to display blanks for zero amounts? So if you have a company that's been around for a long time and you have some accounts that are no longer used, instead of seeing a whole bunch of zeros, you can select display blanks, and then it will just show a blank instead of a zero. And you can also choose just not to display, not even display the row. If there's no amount in it, you don't even have to look at it. So those are two pretty common features there. And down here, this other button, this is also pretty important. This is where you're going to tell whether it is going to be in portrait or landscape, and the shrink to the width of the page setting is also hidden back here under this other button on the Settings tab. So that's basically it for the report definition. I'm going to just take a moment and look at my notes and make sure I didn't miss anything. So the next thing that we're going to review are the row formats. So to look at the row, we can just click on this little icon to the right of the row, and this will open up what the row definition is. And in this row definition, if we start going across, we're going to just talk about each of the columns that are set up here. The first is a row code, and the row code is basically just a number that is assigned, just like Excel, where you have your rows are automatically numbered. The rows are referenced or the row numbers are referenced in your calculations. The next column over is your description, and this column will be what displays on your financial statement. The next format code has a variety of things in it. It's basically how you can define what is happening here. So description tells Management Reporter that this is a title. And if you see down here below, I have this one here is an underscore. And you can use at the bottom of the report, you can also have a double underscore. And then there are totals and calculations. So the totals, in this example here, it is adding rows 130 through 250. So that will include anything in between there. So it is a range. And on your calculations, so this one, you can see that it looks a little bit differently. The at sign represents to tell you that it's a calculation, and because otherwise it would take the number 400 and divide it by 280. So this is now taking the calculation here, what we want on this row is the gross profit percent. So that is taking the gross profit, which is on row 400, and it's going to divide it by what is the amount on row 280, which is your sales number. The next column is the format override. And because this is a percentage, now, and to look at that, I just double-clicked on the field so you can see what is in there, but so then you can choose the format. You have currency, numeric, percentage, and custom. You can select the number of decimal places and how you would like the numbers to be displayed. The next column, column F, is called the normal balance column. For the people who are accounting oriented, you know that sales are usually a credit. So they have a credit balance, which will make them display as a negative. But when you're looking at a profit and loss statement, you don't want to see your income as a minus number. So this C will switch the sign, and it will make your credit balances appear without a minus sign on it. So all these columns where you see the C are typically balances where they would be a credit balance, and you want them displayed as positive numbers. The next amount over is print control. So you can use columns for calculations and hide them. So one of the more common ones that we use is to say that this is a non-printing row. You can suppress the rows. Here's another formatting thing where you can tell it that if the columns have all zeros, that they can be blank. And there are other conditional print options here where you can say only print debit balances or only print credit balances. I'm going to just cancel out of there. This one doesn't have a drop down in it. And the next column over that we're going to talk about is the link to the financial dimension. So this is where you actually get to the meat and potatoes of it and tell what accounts that we're going to show on this row. So our sales accounts are from account number, main segment of the account, 4100 through 4199. So you can double click in this field, and that's where you can put the range. It's very convenient if your chart of accounts is arranged that you can use ranges. It makes it much nicer when you are going to add an account, because typically when you go to add an account, it's going to fall within this range and you will not need to come in and make changes to your financial statement. You also have, I see here, I have some bold statements. You can just go ahead and click on the bold just like you would use it in Word to, bold your headings. And then also, if you like to indent, there's a button up here that will offset your totals. So like if you want to see your totals pushed in, there are some other formatting options up here that you can use. So I think that's, we went over how to calculate the totals. Here's another example of where we went and selected each line. So you can do it as a range, or you can come up here and, this would say the total, the amount that's on row 400 plus what's on row 670 plus 730 minus 760. And that is the row format. Now we're going to go ahead and close that. We'll save our changes. And next we are going to talk about the column formats. So the column formats, the first thing you choose when you are creating a column is what kind of a column is it going to be. And generally speaking, on a profit and loss statement or on a balance sheet, the first column is going to be your description. It's going to tell you what the accounts are. The next most often one used is the financial dimension. And I guess that's just a fancy word for saying that's what's coming from your financial statements. And your code is, you can choose if you're going to use the actual amounts or if you have a budget set up. So you can choose, like for example, if I was going to have one column where I wanted to show my actual and the next column where I wanted to compare my budget to it, then you would make up one column that says actual, and then the next column would say budget. Now let me go back to actual. So back in the beginning when I was talking about having the, what was the word, where you were calling it base, what your fiscal year is, here's where you choose your base. Back here when you're choosing what is your base period going to be, so the period is the monthly increment and the year is your fiscal year that you're going to choose here. So if you wanted your report to compare this year minus last year, you would just put base -1 for your last year period. And the same thing if you would like to see a P&L that would show your current month back 12 months, it would be base, then base -1, base -2, base -3, and that's how you would put it in Management Reporter in order to get the months to automatically be -1. And then under periods covered, that is where you are going to put if the report is going to be periodic, which is going to be just a single month, or year-to-date, if you'd like to have year-to-date amounts in there. You can have formulas. So say, I'm going to go ahead and change this on the fly. So say that we decided that we were going to make this a budget column. We would come in here and put our budget in, and we're going to have it, so this would be the actual column, this would be your budget column, then we're going to create a calculated column, and I want to compare actual versus budget, so I'm going to put my budget, and then I'm going to subtract my current month from that. So there's where you would put your formula of C minus B, and then up here you would put that this is your variance. Yep. What your variance is from budget. You can see it automatically puts in the auto fit, but you can actually say that I want this column to be 10 characters long. Just to hit the highlights of some of the other items down below here, you can choose to have a column be non-printing. So don't print this column at all. You can wrap the text. And one of the other handy things under conditional print options, so say you have this column format set up that you're showing a 12 months, and you're looking at 12 months going across, you can say only print if the period is less than the base period, and that will only give you options that have already, months that have already happened. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel there. Yeah, we're not going to, this is a beginning class. So most of these other items down below here are a once you start getting into the reports more. And I think that can be subject for one of our next webinars. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to the tree, the reporting tree. So we're going to go ahead and click on the icon and open up the tree format. So in the TWO company, that is the sample company in Great Plains, the first segment of the chart of accounts is 3 positions, and it represents the department. The amounts that we were looking at earlier on the row format that were 4 positions long is what we call the main account number. So the column, the tree format generally looks at, you can break it up by departments, or if you have multiple companies, you can also use the tree format to show one company compared to another. And so here in this, you can just define what each segment is. So, you know, if it's 200, it's your sales department, 300 is service and installation, 400 is your training. And then when you run your reports, you can choose if you want to have the summary of everything, or you can choose to run it against each individual one, and then you can see the results of just the amounts that were charged to each of these departments. So the next thing we're going to do is, okay, so this is all nice, but how do I actually run a report? So Management Reporter automatically defaults, so we're in August now, so it will automatically, this S-1 will make it automatically look back at the prior period. That's like the -1. So we're at the 13th of August, so we'll go ahead and assume that we're closed for the month of July. So that's what our report is going to be generated for. And just to show you here, you can choose which month, and then you can also choose the year that you want to report against. And we're going to click Generate. And here's where I was talking about, you can choose to just look at the summary, or if we click Select All, it will generate a P&L for each department. So this window is the Report Queue Status window, and I'm going to select it. And basically what that window does is it will tell you the status of what is happening. So our report has generated, and we generated it to the report viewer. So there is a Management Reporter report viewer. And from this report viewer, you can print your report, send it to XPS, or you can export it to Excel. So exporting to Excel is just as simple as clicking on your Excel logo here. You can tell it where you want your report to get exported to and set your location. You can tell it if you want to look at just the current reporting unit, or if you want to see all units. That would be defined by your tree. And then here are the other options in Excel of if you want to have your headers and footers, formulas. I'm also going to click Export to a single worksheet, and unfortunately you do have to click Open Workbook after exporting. We have not been able to find a way to make that the default, so you do have to click on that if you want the Excel spreadsheet to open up after you generate your report. So now we have the report. It's exported to Excel. We got the logo that we added. That displays. And I'm going to come back here to Management Reporter. And I'm going to go ahead, because I had selected to be able to drill back. So I was able to drill back, and first I'm seeing now all these different departments that had personnel expenses. And then if I drill back again, it's going to show me the account numbers that make up the personnel expenses. And then if I click again, it's showing me the detail of the payroll checks. And back here, oops, you know what? I never closed those two windows. Oh. And over here, you see the tree. So up here on the top, you'll see the total of all the amounts. And then as you click down through each of the departments in the tree, you'll see, so I saw in that general ledger entry that they were all $46,000, so you're seeing the same thing over and over. Some of these other amounts are changing. And I also wanted to show you that there is a web viewer. And we come back to Management Reporter and we click on Tools, Options, and then unselect Use the Report Viewer as the default viewer. And now we're going to go ahead and generate and because this is coming out to display it, it's asking me for my password. And now on the Management Reporter Report Viewer, Web Viewer, now the report is being displayed on the web. And you can also export to Excel. You can still export to Excel from here. It's showing you here under Report Options, it's showing you what period you ran it for. I got this other stuff in the way. And if I click on Download and go to Excel, and I want to open the report. And I closed my other one. So how about that? I'll close it. And now we'll just go ahead and say Download to Excel. open the report. And we can still get the report exported to Excel when you run the report to the web viewer. So those are the highlights of Management Reporter for beginners. And we can come back.
Are you ready for some questions?
Yes.
All right.
Oops, I hit the wrong button.
That's all right. I'll just fast forward. All right, so let me see what questions we have. Okay, so we have one that says your version or your screens look slightly different than mine. I think I might be on a different version. How do I know which version I'm currently running?
So to find the version of Management Reporter, you're going to go Help and About Management Reporter. And they all start with 2.12, and the third segment here of the .16 is the cumulative update version. So if you see that you're on CU16, or if you're CU14, it's this third segment here that will tell you which cumulative update that you are on. But again, you go up to Help and About Management Reporter.
And if you're interested in upgrading, just send a note to support@cssi.com, and we can start having those conversations to see about getting your Management Reporter upgraded. Let me check to see what else. Right-clicking and selecting to insert a new row doesn't always work for me. So how else can I add rows to the reporting tree in Management Reporter?
So ways to add another row. So if you select the row, and if I want to insert, you can right click and insert a reporting unit, which will add a row. You can go up here to the shortcuts, and there's one here that says Insert Reporting Unit, and then you could go ahead and add another row. You can make that 550. And another way to do it would be, like if you're really having trouble with it, you can copy and paste, and then just type over top of it, and then define the new unit that you've added to your tree.
Okay, follow-up question. Does that save those changes automatically, or do they have to apply?
No, you have to come up here. So these aren't legitimate in Great Plains.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go ahead and save it, but
okay.
Here there is a save icon that looks just like your Excel save, and you would have to go ahead and click Save.
Okay.
And then that would save those.
All right, let me see what else we have. I don't want to see the results for the year so far. I only want to see them for the current month. So how do I get it to only run for that time frame?
So that you would define in your column setup. If you had a report that you only wanted to see the current month, here we can go ahead and you would delete this column, and then this column is set up for periodic, which would then just be the current month. and then you could, I'm going to say no, but then you would just go ahead then and generate your report.
Okay, he says thank you. Let's see what else we have. It's easier for me to review field mappings in Excel. How can I get the row definitions into Excel?
Row definitions.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up a new worksheet in Excel. And I'm going to open up the row format in Management Reporter. And if you click in this little button in the top left-hand corner, that acts as a select all. And you can right-click and copy, and then come back down to Excel, and then right-click and paste, and then you will get all of your account definitions here in Excel. And you just have to format it a little bit to get it pretty. But yeah, and you have all your column headers there.
Awesome.
Anything else?
It doesn't look like anybody else has any other questions. No, I think we're good. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We will be doing future webinars. We're still working on a timeline and topics. So if you have any topics that you would like to see in one of our future webinars, please feel free to send us a note at support@cssi.com, or you can email either Deborah or Rochelle, which I know is the most common way of reaching out to the ladies here on our GP support team. So otherwise, please feel free to check us out on LinkedIn at CSSI Technologies Incorporated, on Facebook at CSSI Technologies, and on Twitter at CSSI. Keep an eye out for our monthly newsletters. I'm sure you've been receiving them. If you work with GP on a regular basis. If you are not receiving them, please feel free to send us a note at support@cssi.com. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful day.